I sat in the corner of the elegantly decorated ballroom, watching my future mother-in-law, Patricia, glide between tables of champagne-clinking guests, her silk Chanel dress catching the candlelight. The rehearsal dinner for my fiancé Marcus and me was everything I dreamed of, at least from the outside. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, white roses cascaded from every surface, and the who's who of Chicago's elite filled the room. But as Patricia leaned close to a cluster of her country club friends near the bar, her voice carried just loud enough for me to hear what she really thought about her son's choice of bride. "She's basically our charity project," Patricia said with that practiced smile of hers, the one that looked warm from a distance but never reached her cold gray eyes. Marcus has always had such a soft heart for strays. First it was that rescue dog, now it's Emma. We're hoping some of our refinement will rub off on her before the wedding. The women around her laughed politely, their diamond tennis bracelets catching the light as they sipped their Dom Perignon. My chest tightened, but I kept my expression neutral, years of practice making it easy to hide the sting. I smoothed down my navy dress, the one Patricia had called quaint when I'd arrived, and took a slow breath. If only she knew that this dress was a custom Valentino piece that cost more than her monthly country club dues. My name is Emma Chen, and for the past 2 years, I'd been playing a role in the Wellington family drama. They saw me as the poor girl from nowhere who'd somehow caught their golden boy's attention. Marcus, my fiancé, was everything his mother wanted in a son. Harvard law graduate, junior partner at his father's firm, member of the yacht club, and heir to the Wellington commercial real estate fortune. And me? Well, to them, I was the daughter of Chinese immigrants who owned a dry cleaning business, a girl who'd gone to state school and worked her way through college waiting tables. What they didn't know was that I'd been keeping a secret that was about to change everything. The truth was, I'd founded a tech startup called Luminary Solutions when I was 23, right after graduating. While working those waitressing shifts, I'd been coding late into the night, building an AI-powered logistics platform that would revolutionize supply chain management. 3 years ago, we'd secured Series B funding of $42 million. Last year, we had been acquired by a Fortune 500 company for $380 million. My personal stake after the acquisition? $97 million, sitting in various investment accounts and real estate holdings across 3 continents. But I'd never told Marcus's family. In fact, I'd barely told Marcus until we'd been dating for a year. I'd learned early in life that people treated you differently when they knew you had money, and I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what I had. Marcus knew everything now, of course, and found the whole situation amusing. He had grown up with wealth and understood its complications. He had been the one to suggest I continue keeping it quiet from his parents, curious to see how long it would take them to figure out that their charity project could buy their estate 3 times over. "Emma, darling, come here for a moment," Patricia called out, her voice honey-sweet with poison underneath. I set down my champagne flute and walked over, my Christian Louboutin heels clicking softly on the marble floor. Heels that Patricia had no idea cost $1,200. "Yes, Patricia?" I asked, keeping my voice soft and pleasant. "I was just telling the girls about your quaint little family business, the dry cleaning shop. It's so wonderfully humble, such a contrast to Marcus's background. We think it's charming how hard your parents work with their hands." The women around her nodded with practiced sympathy, the kind reserved for lesser circumstances. One of them, a woman named Constance with too much Botox and a Hermes Kelly bag, smiled at me like I was a child. "You must be so grateful that Marcus's family is welcoming you in. Not every family would be so generous." "Oh, we're paying for the entire wedding, of course. But Emma's family couldn't possibly afford something like this. The venue alone is $85,000. We just want Marcus to have the wedding he deserves, even if the bride comes from more modest circumstances." I felt my phone buzz in my clutch. Perfect timing. I pulled it out and glanced at the screen, seeing an email from my financial advisor at Goldman Sachs about a real estate deal I was closing in Manhattan, a $12 million penthouse overlooking Central Park that I was buying in cash. But I slipped the phone back into my purse and smiled at Patricia. "You're so generous," I said simply, watching her practically glow with self-satisfaction. Marcus caught my eye from across the room and raised an eyebrow. He knew that look on my face, the one that meant I was counting down to something. We talked about this moment, about when and how I'd finally let them know the truth. He'd left it entirely up to me, saying he'd support whatever I decided. Part of me wanted to maintain the peace, to let them keep their illusions, but another part of me, the part that had fought for every success I'd achieved, was getting tired of being treated like a charity case. Emma, darling, we should discuss the wedding favors, Patricia continued, steering me away from her friends. I know you had some ideas, but I've taken the liberty of ordering Tiffany crystal frames for all 200 guests. I hope you don't mind that I didn't consult you. I just thought, given your limited experience with these sorts of events, it would be easier if I handled the details. That's fine, I said, not mentioning that I'd recently been featured in Forbes magazine for my business acumen and had been the youngest woman honored at the Women in Technology Summit, where I'd been seated next to the CEO of IBM. The dinner bell chimed and everyone moved toward their assigned seats. I found my place card at the family table, strategically positioned between Marcus's younger sister Amanda, who'd barely spoken to me in 2 years, and his cousin Gregory, who'd asked me at least 5 times if I knew how to use the different forks at formal dinners. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table as we sat down, his dark eyes full of amusement and love. "He's holding up okay?" he whispered. "Just counting the moments," I whispered back. The first course arrived. Delicate scallop carpaccio with microgreens, and Patricia stood to give a toast. She looked radiant in her designer dress, her blonde hair perfectly coiffed. A woman who'd never questioned her place in the world. "I want to welcome everyone to this beautiful evening," she began, her voice projecting across the room with the confidence of someone accustomed to being heard. "Marcus, my darling boy, you've made your father and me so proud. Harvard, the partnership at the firm, and now you're settling down. When you first told us about Emma, we were surprised, I won't lie. She wasn't quite what we'd envisioned for you." I felt Marcus stiffen beside me, but Patricia continued, oblivious to the insult she was delivering. "But we've come to see that sometimes love means embracing people from all walks of life. Emma may not come from our world, but she has a good heart, and we've committed to helping her adjust to the lifestyle she's marrying into. Think of us as her fairy godparents, transforming her from her simple background into someone who can stand beside a Wellington." The room erupted in polite applause, and I noticed several guests glancing at me with pity. My face felt hot, but I kept smiling, that same practiced smile I'd perfected over years of being underestimated. Amanda leaned over to me. "Don't worry," she said in a stage whisper. "Mother can teach you everything. She's already planning etiquette sessions for you before the wedding, and we'll get you into a good salon for your hair, something more sophisticated than that mall cut you have now." My hair had been styled that morning by Jonathan, the same colorist who did Gwyneth Paltrow's hair at $350 an hour. But Amanda didn't need to know that. Dinner progressed through 5 courses of exquisite food prepared by Chef Laurent, whom Patricia had flown in from New York specifically for this event. Between the pan-seared Chilean sea bass and the herb-crusted rack of lamb, I listened to Patricia's friends discuss their upcoming trips to the Maldives, their children's accomplishments at Yale and Princeton, and their latest charitable endeavors. Every so often, one of them would turn to me with exaggerated interest. "And what do you do, dear?" asked a woman named Victoria, even though Patricia had surely already told her I was unemployed, as far as they knew. "I'm in technology," I said simply. "Oh, like working at the Apple store?" she asked with genuine curiosity. "That's wonderful. Marcus always says how important it is to have a work ethic." "Something like that," I replied, taking a sip of the Chateau Margaux that Patricia had insisted was wasted on my unsophisticated palate. My phone buzzed again, and I glanced down to see a text from my CFO, Sarah. The quarterly reports were in,
and Luminary's post-acquisition performance bonuses were being distributed. My share this quarter was $4.2 million. I typed back a quick response and set the phone down. "Emma, please," Patricia said sharply from across the table. "It's terribly rude to be on your phone during dinner. I know that might be acceptable in more casual settings, but at formal events like this, we put our devices away." "Of course, Patricia, I apologize," I said, slipping the phone back into my clutch. "It was just my financial advisor, but it can wait." I saw Marcus hide a smile behind his wine glass. He knew exactly what that text had been about, and he knew the bomb I just casually dropped, even though his mother had completely missed it. The evening wore on, and the humiliations continued in small, paper-cut ways. Patricia announced that she'd hired a wedding planner to manage things because she didn't trust that I could handle the complexity of a Wellington wedding. Marcus's father, Robert, made a joke about hoping I didn't expect Marcus to support my parents in their old age. Gregory loudly explained the difference between vintage and non-vintage champagne, assuming I wouldn't know. But what they didn't know was that I'd been biting my tongue for months, watching them plan a wedding that I could have paid for 100 times over. The $85,000 venue, I'd recently donated twice that to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. The designer dress Patricia had bought me as a gift, I had 6 others hanging in my closet that cost more. The Tiffany crystal frame she'd ordered without asking me, I had a standing account at Tiffany where I was considered a VIP client. As dessert was being served, a delicate chocolate souffle with gold leaf garnish, the catering manager approached our table with a discreet leather folder. He leaned down to speak quietly to Patricia. "Mrs. Wellington, I apologize for the interruption, but there's been an issue with the credit card on file for this evening. It's been declined. Do you have another form of payment?" The color drained from Patricia's face. "That's impossible," she hissed. "Run it again." "We've tried 3 times, ma'am. The total is $45,000, including the premium wine selection and the chef's fee. Is there another card you'd like to use?" Robert fumbled for his wallet, but I could see the panic in his eyes. Marcus had mentioned that his parents had been having some financial difficulties lately. Something about a bad investment and some properties that weren't selling. But they'd been hiding it, maintaining appearances at all costs, including apparently charging a rehearsal dinner they couldn't afford. This was my moment. Little did my family realize that the evening was about to take a very different turn. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my Black American Express Centurion card, the one with no spending limit that only 0.03% of Americans carried. I handed it to the catering manager with a calm smile. "Please put it on this," I said quietly. The manager's eyes widened slightly as he recognized the card, and he nodded with new respect. "Of course, Miss Chen. Thank you." Patricia stared at me, confusion and shock warring on her face. "Emma, what is that? Marcus, what's happening?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, thoroughly enjoying himself now. "That's Emma's credit card, Mother. She's paying for your rehearsal dinner." "But that card, that's a Centurion card. Those are invitation only. You have to charge at least $400,000 a year to even qualify." "Yes," I said simply, my voice steady. "I know." The table had gone completely silent. Amanda's mouth hung open. Gregory had stopped mid-bite of his souffle. Patricia looked like she'd been slapped. "I don't understand," she said slowly. "How do you have that card? Did Marcus give it to you?" "No," Marcus said, his voice filled with pride. "It's her card, in her name, from her money." "What money?" Patricia's voice was rising now, causing nearby tables to glance over. "You're a waitress. Your parents own a dry cleaning business. You don't have money." breath, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. All those months of biting my tongue, of accepting their condescension and pity, were about to end. But I wasn't going to be cruel. I wasn't going to humiliate them the way they'd humiliated me. I was simply going to tell them the truth. Patricia, Robert, there's something I should probably tell you, I began, my voice gentle but firm. I'm not who you think I am. Yes, my parents own a dry cleaning business, and yes, I worked as a waitress in college, but that's not all I did. I pulled out my phone and opened my email, showing them the Forbes article from 6 months ago. The headline read, 30 Under 30, Emma Chen's Luminary Solutions Disrupts the Logistics Industry. There was a photo of me in a power suit, standing in front of my company's logo. 8 years ago, I founded a tech company, I continued. We developed AI software for supply chain management. 3 years ago, we secured $42 million in Series B funding. Last year, we were acquired by Tech Corp for $380 million. My personal stake after the acquisition was $97 million. The silence at the table was deafening. Patricia's face had gone from shocked to pale to a strange shade of red. Robert's hands trembled as he reached for the phone to look at the article more closely. That's impossible, Patricia whispered. You live in that small apartment. You drive a Honda. You shop at regular stores. I live modestly because I choose to, I said. The apartment is actually a penthouse I own outright, in a building I invested in. It's worth about $2.4 million. The Honda is practical for city driving, and I shop at regular stores because I don't need designer labels to prove my worth, though I do have them when I want them. I pulled up another email, this one from my real estate attorney about the Manhattan penthouse closing. I'm actually closing on a $12 million property next week, and I own commercial real estate in San Francisco, London, and Singapore. My investment portfolio is managed by Goldman Sachs, and I serve on the board of 2 tech startups. Amanda found her voice first. But why didn't you tell us? Why let us treat you like you were nobody? Because I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I have, I said, looking around the table at their stunned faces. I've learned that money changes how people see you. Sometimes they love you for the wrong reasons. Sometimes they hate you because they're intimidated. I wanted Marcus's family to know the real me before they knew about the money. I wanted to see who you really were too. And what did you see? Patricia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I paused, considering my words carefully. I saw people so concerned with appearances that they missed what was real. I saw people who measured worth in country club memberships and designer labels instead of character and kindness. I saw people who treated me as less than because they assumed I had less than. And honestly, it hurt. Every charity project comment, every condescending lesson about fork placement, every pitying look hurt. But it also taught me something important about the kind of person I never want to become. The catering manager returned with my card and the receipt. Thank you, Miss Chen. The payment has been processed. We hope to serve you again soon. Thank you, I said, tucking the card back into my clutch. I stood up from the table and Marcus did with me, his hand finding mine. I think we're going to go, I said quietly. Patricia, Robert, thank you for organizing this dinner. It was enlightening. Marcus and I will be in touch about the wedding plans. Though I should mention, I've already paid the venue directly for the full amount. I didn't want you to worry about the cost. I started to walk away, but Patricia's voice stopped me. Emma, wait, please. I don't know what to say. I've been terrible to you. We've been terrible to you. I turned back to see tears in her eyes, real emotion finally breaking through her carefully maintained facade. Why would you still pay for dinner after the way I treated you? After the things I said? Because despite everything, you're going to be my family. And family means showing up even when it's hard. It means choosing grace over revenge. I paid for dinner because I could. And because I don't want this evening to end in humiliation for you. I've been humiliated enough to know how it feels, and I don't wish that on anyone. I squeezed Marcus's hand and we walked out of the ballroom together, leaving behind a table of stunned wedding guests and a family who would never see me the same way again. The night air was cool as we stepped outside, and I took a deep breath, feeling like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Marcus wrapped his arm around me and kissed the top of my head. That was incredible. You were incredible. I'm sorry about my mother, about all of them. Don't be. This needed to happen. We couldn't build a marriage on false pretenses and hidden resentments. Now everything is out in the open and we can move forward from here. My phone rang, and I saw it was Patricia calling. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Hello? Emma, please, can we talk? Tomorrow. Please give me a chance to apologize properly, to understand I've been such a fool. Tomorrow, I agreed. Brunch at 11. There's a cafe I like downtown. I'll text you the address. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not walking away completely. The next morning, I arrived at the cafe early, choosing a quiet corner table by the window. I dressed casually, jeans and a simple cashmere sweater, my hair pulled back in a ponytail. When Patricia arrived, she looked somehow smaller, less imposing without her armor of designer clothes and carefully applied makeup. She was wearing slacks and a simple blouse, her face free of its usual heavy makeup and her eyes red-rimmed from crying. Thank you for meeting me, she said as she sat down. I wasn't sure you would after everything. I believe in second chances, and I believe people can change when they're willing to look at themselves honestly. We ordered coffee, and for a long moment, Patricia just stared at her cup, gathering her words. I don't know how to explain what I've done, the way I've treated you. It's inexcusable. Try, I said gently. Help me understand. I grew up with nothing, she began, her voice quiet. My father was a factory worker. My mother cleaned houses. I was the girl from the wrong side of town who married into money when I met Robert. For 30 years, I've been terrified that people would see through me, that they'd realize I wasn't really one of them. So I became more snobbish than anyone, more focused on appearances, more judgmental. When Marcus brought you home and I saw that you came from a working class background like I did, I saw myself, and instead of feeling compassion, I felt threatened. You were everything I'd spent my life trying to escape and hide. Tears rolled down our cheeks. I projected all my own insecurities onto you. I treated you the way I was afraid of being treated, and the most shameful part is that you handled it with such grace while I acted like a monster. You were everything I should have been, confident in yourself regardless of what others think, successful because of your actual abilities, kind without needing to prove anything, and I couldn't see it because I was too busy protecting my own fragile ego. I felt my own eyes sting with tears. Thank you for being honest. That takes courage. I want to do better, Patricia said, reaching across the table. Not just for Marcus, but because you deserve better. Can you forgive me? Can we start over? We can try, I said, taking her hand. But Patricia, this has to be real. I need you to work on your relationship with your own past, with your own worth, because I can't be responsible for managing your insecurities. And I need you to treat me as an equal, not as a project or a threat. I will, she promised. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, honest conversations, whatever you need from me. Over the next few months, Patricia did exactly that. She started seeing a therapist to work through her issues with class and self-worth. She reached out to apologize not just to me, but to the other people she'd hurt with her snobbery over the years. She volunteered at my parents' dry cleaning business for a week, learning about their lives and their hard work, developing a genuine respect for them. The wedding, when it finally happened 6 months later, was different than originally planned. Marcus and I decided to scale it back, donating the money we would have spent on excessive luxury to a fund for immigrant entrepreneurs. Patricia supported the decision wholeheartedly, even suggesting additional charities we might help. At the wedding, Patricia's toast was simple and genuine. Emma, I judged you before I knew you, and then I refused to see you even when the truth was right in front of me. You've taught me that real wealth isn't in bank accounts or designer labels. It's in character, in integrity, in how we treat people when we think they have nothing to offer us. Thank you for giving me a second chance to be part of your life. Thank you for showing me who I want to be. Years have passed since that rehearsal dinner, and my relationship with Marcus's family has transformed completely. Patricia and I have coffee every week, and she's become one of my closest advisors as I've started a foundation to help women entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds. She brings a perspective I need, someone who understands both worlds and can bridge them with hard-won wisdom. I think about that night often, about the moment when I could have humiliated them the way they'd humiliated me. I could have been cruel. I could have flaunted my wealth and made them feel small. But I chose differently, and that choice made all the difference. Revenge would have felt good for a moment, but grace, truth, and boundaries gave me something much more valuable. A family that finally sees me, respects me, and loves me for who I really am. My parents still run their dry cleaning business, though I've helped them expand to 3 locations. They refuse to retire, saying the work gives them purpose. Patricia stops by once a week to help out and practice her Mandarin with my mother. The two of them have become unexpected friends, bonded by their shared journey from humble beginnings and their love for Marcus and me. Marcus and I now live in that Manhattan penthouse, though we spend summers at a villa in Tuscany that we bought together. I've started 2 more companies and serve on the boards of several nonprofits. But my favorite thing is mentoring young women who are starting their own businesses, especially those who face people who underestimate them because of their background, their age, or their gender. I tell them what I learned that night at the rehearsal dinner. Your worth isn't defined by other people's perceptions. You don't need to prove yourself to people who refuse to see you. But you also don't need to become bitter or cruel in response to their blindness. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is live your truth quietly, set firm boundaries, and wait for the right moment to speak up. And when that moment comes, let your success speak for itself. But let your character speak even louder. The black Amex card sits in my wallet, a tool I use when needed, but not a measure of my value. My real wealth is in the relationships I've built, the businesses I've created, the people I've helped, and the woman I've become through all of it. Patricia learned that lesson too, the hard way, and she's spent every day since trying to live it. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not telling Marcus's family the truth from the beginning. Would it have saved everyone pain if I'd just been upfront about my success? Maybe. But then I wouldn't have learned who they really were. I wouldn't have seen Patricia's transformation. I wouldn't have discovered my own strength in choosing grace over revenge. And I wouldn't have the story to share with other women who are told they're not enough, who are underestimated and dismissed, who wonder if they should hide their light to make others comfortable. My answer is always the same. Be authentically you, whether people understand your worth or not. Build your empire quietly if that's what feels right, but never let anyone make you feel less than you are. And when the moment comes to reveal your truth, do it with dignity, with firmness, and with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are. That's the real revenge after all. Not making others feel small, but refusing let their smallness diminish you. Not proving them wrong with cruelty, but proving them wrong by becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. And if they can learn and grow from the experience, even better. But if they can't, you walk away knowing that you handled yourself with grace. And that's worth more than any amount of money in any bank account. The rehearsal dinner bill was $45,000. But the lesson it taught everyone at that table, including me, was priceless.